I'll do the intro in a little bit. I think we should be good. We'll just let everybody kind of join in. Do you see a comment thing or anything you can click on that would be like?
There's a comment button up here. There we go. Comments from live viewers. Got it.
Perfect. Right on. Cool. So we'll give everybody a second to figure out we're here. I put a scheduled a post on Facebook to say we're on at about now.
Okay.
But, so what's the weather like up there right now?
It's like right around freezing and has snowed a little bit, but then cold rain. Went out yesterday, kind of our winter riding spot, and there was about 4 to 6 inches of snow in spots, and the other spots have been melted off, so it's kind of a mix. But
Gotcha.
A bunch of down stuff from the weight of the snow.
Yeah.
Did a lot of cutting yesterday on the ride. So
nice. All right, so looks like people are joining in. Welcome to the Gospel of Two Wheels, where the coffee's hot, the bikes are fast, and your comments are thankfully super ridiculous. Fridays, good to see you. Zach, Colorado Dirt Bikes for Life, Bruce Kennedy, awesome to see you guys all here. We are here today with the one and only, the legendary Dan North of True North Motos. He makes all kinds of stuff. We're just going to jump right in and we're going to say, Dan, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how much you like dirt bikes.
I'll start with how much I like dirt bikes. Dirt bikes kind of saved me from my mom passing at a young age, and I got into riding and got into with a really good group of guys, and it kind of just saved me from a bad spot. So I've had this passion ever since then. And I started building bikes when I was about 16. Was the first time I truly tore a bike down to engine frame and built it from the ground up. And it was something I did on the side forever and built wiring harnesses for people. And it just, one day my buddy said, "Hey, I'll buy your business license if you build me a wiring harness." I was like, "All right." And then I built a website and started building more and more, and it just took off. I just quit my regular day job about 4 months ago, and
awesome.
Yeah, it's full time now. So
nice.
True North Motos is we specialize in racks for lightweight adventure travel for KTM 500s, 350s, Husqvarnas, with saw mounts or mounting luggage on to do multi-day trips. And then mainly the big thing is lighting harnesses, wheel sport kits, and just kind of accessory power and things like that as well.
Right on. That's how we ended up meeting, was through the 300XC, the game changer we're calling it. And I saw you had awesome wiring harness. You got a hold of me, and I'm stoked because the thing I like about your harness is the fact that it will not kill the battery when you shut the bike off. I mean, any moron like myself could build a wiring harness that runs off the battery to a switch to turn the light on. I mean, that's pretty simple. I can do a good job, make it look nice, but that's not awesome with a bike that doesn't have a kickstarter.
Yeah. And that was kind of my go-to with all of our kits, is to make it so it shuts off after the bike shuts off, and there's no parasitic draw. There's nothing that's going to happen there. And I just wanted to build better kits where you're not cluttering up your bars with a bunch of different switches, and using quality components that aren't going to fail. I mean, here in Washington, we have really rainy weather, and the switches and that I've used in the past with other kits, they get wet, and then all of a sudden my horn's just blaring in the middle of the night in the garage, or the turn signal's on when I come out in the morning, and I'm like, all right, there's got to be a better way. Like I'm going to make something better, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's super cool. And actually, you got a compliment from the shop here in town when I took my bike. So, by the way, guys who are watching this, if you're watching this live, please ask questions. Let us know. If you're watching this afterwards, ask questions, and we'll get back to you for sure. But I took my bike to get the reflash to fix the whole power valve code dumb, whatever. Anyway, and by the way, I accidentally tested that again tonight, and it works. It does not come on. I'm happy.
Nice. I gotta go do that to mine.
I was like, I didn't want to do it, but I got my mitts on. Yeah, you can kind of see right there. I got my mitts on for my hands because we're riding in the snow now, and so I was reaching up to shut the bike off to start and whatever, and I accidentally I'm like, oh god! And I looked down, and it wasn't flashing. I was so stoked.
Yeah.
But the mechanic, he's a KTM trained official mechanic. When he took the seat off, he's like, well, what's this? Because the OBD plug wasn't plugged where it was supposed to be. And I'm like, oh, that's my wiring harness. And he's like, oh, so he checked it out. And he's like, dude, that's sick. And I'm like, yeah, it's really nice. True North Motos. So who knows? Hopefully Davis Service Center will get a hold of you and buy
Sweet.
some harnesses from you too. So
Yeah.
they sell a ton of KTMs. They're the only, well, I mean, there's a KTM shop in Gunnison. There's one in Grand Junction, but like, I don't know, they sell a freaking boatload of KTM. So, maybe we'll get you some more business there too. It'd be awesome.
Sweet. Hell yeah.
Bruce Kennedy says, must be some electronics training along the way. Do you ever train anything or you just figured it all out?
Nope. No electronics training. Just figured it all out.
Nice.
It's just something that I taught myself over the years, wiring stuff in. And then, I mean, obviously researching and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Zach Stanford asks, are you going to continue to make the 22 XC harness even though the 23 is out?
Definitely, because they use a different diagnostic port. So we will definitely continue to make those. And those basically will fit any fuel-injected bike from 2011 was the first KTM fuel-injected bike, all the way up to the 22 because they all use the same OBD2 port. So,
gotcha.
Yes, we will definitely continue to make those.
Nice. Frank K said he's just about to buy nitro mousses. Should I do the balls instead? It's funny. Sorry. The whole mousse balls thing has been pretty fun. So have you used those yet, Dan?
I have not. I'm still a nitro mousse guy.
Yeah. I'm a hardcore. Go ahead.
It kind of looks like even more of a pain in the ass to install than shoving the mousse in the tire. I don't know.
It's not actually. I mean, it takes a little longer, right? Like, because you got to load them all in there, and you got to grease them all like each individually and whatever. But the install once they're in there and then onto the wheel is actually easier, I would say, because they're squishier than nitros. Like, I'm a big nitro mousse fan. Like, Jeff takes care of me, whatever. Like, he's an awesome guy, and I love him, and I like nitro mousses. But Intech is who sent me the mousse balls. They watch all my stuff, and they're like, yeah, dude, we like you to try these things. I'm like, okay, great, I'll try them. And what's cool about them is they're about a pound lighter per wheel, which is kind of a giant amount for rotating unsprung weight. Like, they're a lot lighter. And then the foam feels, it's the same company that makes Pirelli mousses. And if you've ever used a Pirelli mousse, they are, in my opinion, they are the gold standard of mousses. They're just stupid expensive.
Yeah.
The last time I looked at a set, they were like $250 a piece.
Oh, wow.
I got one set given to me years ago, and I was like, I didn't want to let them go. Like, I wanted to sleep with them. They were so good. And I finally, I think I sold that bike and whatever. Anyway, but like, oh, they're so good. And they lasted forever. So these mousse balls, Mason Ottersberg, who's a pro, he does a lot of desert racing and works and stuff like that. They sent him a set, and he got a hold of me when he saw I had them, and he said he's got 60 plus hours on a set of them with and they look perfect. Like, he's going to put another tire, no big deal.
That's pretty impressive. I mean,
yeah,
if you can get 60 hours out of it, then
yeah. And they're like I said, the lightness is a big deal. Like, I mean, that's a pretty big situation on unsprung and rotating weight. I'm not a big weight weenie. Like, I don't care if my bike is heavy, but wheels being heavy makes a big difference.
Oh yeah.
So they're cool. They're expensive. They're $189 retail, but if they last 60% longer than whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter at that point. So.
Well, yeah. So I mean, sometimes it's better to just buy quality the first time instead of buying stuff over and over again.
Yeah. Mark Dennington. So did they come out with a reflash to fix the F5 fault? Yes. It's a mandatory map, and that's actually a quick, interesting situation. At least my dealer, when I went there, at first they're like, "Listen, we got to charge you for this because KTM is not allowing us to bill them for this remap." I'm like, "It's a mandatory remap," and they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Whatever." I said, "Yeah, I don't care. Here's the money. Like, it's $50, just whatever." But they got back to me. Mechanic's like, "Hey, Morgan, don't blast KTM too hard yet because I'm finding out I think we're going to be able to refund you and bill them and get it all taken care of." So, yeah, which they should. I mean, it's a whatever. It's their fault that they built something like that. So, Cliff Anderson, I do need to put the phrase "whatever" on a T-shirt because that's exactly how I feel half the time. These morons. Anyway, whatever. There we go. Says, does Elco make the cylinder? Elco, I think you mean, I don't know if it's Elco, the 23. What about the piston? No, so I don't know about my 23 piston. I do have one on order. I'm waiting for that to come in before I tear the top end off of this thing. When I do, I'm going to do a top end just to, I mean, it's going to be way early, but I'm going to do it just to show everybody. I don't know if the XC's got crappy pistons like the XCWs. But have you guys seen any of the Ws blow up yet, Dan?
I haven't had one come into the shop. I mean, I've been following, all the reports and stuff like that. I have yet to hear of any XC having an issue. So, I don't think the XCs used them, but until you tear into it or I do, who knows for sure,
Yeah, we had a guy.
I did get my bike up to 82 miles an hour yesterday on GPS, which was pretty impressive.
Nice. Yeah, I had mine on the radar at a race. Every lap I was doing 73, and that was pretty much taped down a piece of pavement, like with a radar gun on us, because it was just they had a like your speed is thing down this big long straightaway.
Yep.
And I mean, I've had it wide open lots of times. It's been fine. So, whatever. Let's see, longevity for balls over one-piece mousse would make them, make them worthwhile. Scott Copland, my dealer's a little bit by the book sometimes with the whole charging thing. He's and I haven't seen, but we did have a guy here that follows us online that had his piston cracked, like the skirt cracked, went down through the motor, and it didn't do the whole explosion thing like the pictures online, but it busted a skirt and went, and the bike has, what did he say, 30 hours on it, 40 hours on it? So that's
a bummer.
Not awesome. So Dan, let's talk about your fleet of motorcycles that you ride. Well, I don't know if you have a fleet, but what do you ride? Obviously you have a 23XC. What else do you ride?
Yep. I have a 23 450 XCFW, which just replaced my 500 XCFW 2020. That bike was super interesting to me because it's the first time that KTM had their enduro motor in a long time with no emissions and a full unlocked ECU.
Yeah.
So that has a full build on it. Motor is amazing. Not as many vibes as a 500 when you're riding dual sport stuff. It's very smooth, but it revs a lot freer than a 500. And I really love that bike. I mean, if I had to pick between my 300 and my 450, I don't know which one I would pick, to be honest. So,
well, it sounds like you guys do a lot of dual sport stuff, right?
I haven't actually dual sport rode in a while. We've been doing a lot more, racing stuff and just trail riding. But yeah, we go out. I was a guide for my buddy's company called Grip Twister Tours down in Baja for 7 years. So we'd go down and take a group of like 6 to 8 guys and guide them for 1,100 miles through Baja over 7 days. So
nice.
that was a big thing. That's kind of where the rack came from, was something that would hold up and hold 30 pounds. Because we'd go 1 year to do it, or one time a year to do a tour, and we go another time to update the GPS track and make sure everything goes through before we took the next tour. And so that trip, we'd pretty much camp off the bike the entire time. Where the tour, we'd go, motel to motel, basically. And the chase truck would meet us there. So that's where the rack came from. I wanted something that would hold up in Mexico.
Right on.
So, but yeah, we do dual sport rides around the Olympics and around all the Cascades around here too, a few times a year.
Do you have so you said you do racks for the Huskies. How does that work with the composite subframe? Because that's a question for me. I don't know if anybody else is wondering that, but like I'm wondering that.
It works. It's harder to tie in than the aluminum. I would say it's close to as strong, but not as strong as the aluminum subframe.
Okay.
I got away from Husky because of the composite in 2020, and it sent me back to KTM because before that I was on a 17501, and that was my main bike for 180 hours or 200 hours I put on that bike. But then, the aluminum subframe is better in my opinion. Lots of guys don't have problems with their Huskies, and that's great. I'm not here to bash Huskies, but
yeah.
I definitely prefer the aluminum one. It's just got.
Uh-oh. We lost Dan for a second. His internet connection is not super rad. He can probably hear me right now, hopefully. He's going to be right back, though. Let's see. Dan, we lost you for a little bit there, but you were talking about basically saying that the aluminum subframe. I would agree. I like the aluminum subframe. That's why I did own one Husqvarna. I owned a 15 TC250, and I honestly hated working on it because the subframe was just a pain. Like it was like everything was anyway. I wasn't a fan. I never broke mine. Like I've seen lots of them break, but I never broke mine. I'm a big fan. What do you think about the new subframe, the mix? What do you think about that?
I wish they would have kept it aluminum.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be stronger than the old composite because they have the aluminum spars that run along the top that are kind of in the composite subframe, and they have the lower aluminum mounts that tie into it.
Right.
Building a rack off of it is going to be a challenge. Definitely, they didn't leave a lot of tie-in points or anything. Great, fine for a race bike. I haven't had any issues. I've definitely looped my bike already, practicing like pivot turns and slow wheelies and stuff like that. But as far as the other aspect of our business besides wiring harness and building the rack, it looks like it's going to be a pain in the butt. So
yeah, I'm not a big. I was like when they saw that on the spec, I was like, come on, I just want an aluminum subframe. I just leave it alone, please. It does make
aluminum subframe.
Go ahead.
I was going to say aluminum subframe, old radiator cap, and the old stator, and then it would be the perfect bike in my opinion.
Yeah, I know. I almost want if I had just giant piles of money, I think it'd be pretty fun to take my XCW because I like XCs and XCWs. I like whatever. I like them both for different things, but I think it'd be really interesting and fun to try to take the new XC motor and all the wiring and everything and like get that onto my old XC chassis. I mean, it would take obviously welding and whatever. But that would be a brilliant motorcycle because it's, aluminum subframe. I like PDS for the rocky stuff. But you get the TBI, which runs better than anything I've ever ridden. And it'd be super cool. But I just don't have money and time to just start tearing bikes apart and wedging things into things. But yeah, it would be a lot of fun. Hey, Brody, real fast, bow hunter, ask me later about what piston you should get for your Husky. A Vertex is what I'm going to say, but let's see. Real fast. Mark Dennington, what's your final thoughts on the mapping trick? I don't have any final thoughts yet because TSP hasn't done their proof of concept. Dan, do you have any thoughts on that?
So what the XCWs are going to be next time? I'm sorry, I got caught reading the comments.
That's right. The secret map thing. I don't know if you saw my deal where you can like hold it wide and set the mapping.
I did, and I didn't try it myself. I did speak to James Dean from JD Jetting because I've worked with him kind of closely, and he was going to try it out on a dyno. He hasn't done that yet. He did do his regular dyno run, which I don't know if you saw that. The results from that was pretty impressive. It was 53.5 stock, and with his tuner, it was 54.5.
Nice.
He's going to give me one to try out. I'm not a big fan of, honestly, of throwing tuners on my bikes if they don't really need them, but you know, if he wants me to go ride it and test it, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, because the guys at TSP in Australia, they did a dyno run, and they did the map, and they couldn't really see anything changed, but they did find a third map. Like, that was the deal. Like, they found a third map in the ECU that was not. They couldn't prove that they were accessing it because it was very, very close to one of the other maps. So It's almost like maybe that thing does work. Like, that's a thing for down the road, or maybe that's a Wi-Fi module option, and that would be a way to access it. But what he was going to do is get in there, once he figures out how to actually tune that ECU, change that third map drastically, and then try it to see if it accessed it. And I don't think they've done that yet. So, but yeah,
no, it'll be cool. If I like watching the TSP progress. Yeah, those guys. That's what I used on my TPI to make it feel more like a car bike or get closer. Was their kit? Have you ridden one of the ones with the new injector relocator yet?
No, I've got two of them in here that we're doing. But one, we took the head off, the stock head off, to put the TSP head on, and found a scratch in the cylinder at 9 hours because it was a TPI and probably not warmed up right or something. So that's getting sent off. And the other one is an XC, and the TSP relocator kit doesn't work with the XC with the linkage shock because the thing that holds the injector needs to be changed. And so that's supposed to be out January or something like that. So no, I have not ridden one, unfortunately. I'm excited to. Everybody I've talked to says they're awesome.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. We deal with Steve from South Bay Moto Performance quite a bit. So
that's who I get him through.
He was giving me his feedback.
Nice. Let's see. Ken, the guy asking if the TBI ECU can be sent somewhere for the update without the bike. I don't know if they'll do that or not. My dealership won't do it. They want to see the bike. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Let's see. If anybody other questions. Okay, keep messing. Why do they keep messing with the sport, making everything harder? Says Jason. I know. There's part of me that wonders that too. But here's the thing. Here's the reason that all these things keep changing and that you can't. Well, except for YZ250s. You can buy a YZ250 and nothing has changed, if that's what you want. But the rest of these companies are trying to sell motorcycles, and the only thing that's going to keep selling brand new motorcycles is changing them, right? Because that's just it. Like, guys, not a lot of guys buy brand new YZ250. I mean, they do. They sell plenty of bikes, but a lot of guys are buying used YZ250s because they're the same as the new YZ250, and that's not how companies stay in business. So, yeah, whatever. Any news on the 104 map? That was what we're just talking about. No, I don't think. I talked to my friend Tech at the shop. It doesn't show him, but he doesn't think there's any difference in the fueling or anything like that on the 104 map. It's just for the power valve code thing, from what
That's what I've heard too. That's all I've heard too.
Dan, have you ever been to Colorado riding dirt bikes?
I have. I'm trying to remember. I've been to Bangs Canyon. When we were in Moab, we drove over and rode Bangs Canyon.
Okay,
that's the only time I spent the day and rode over there. So
that's a funny thing to drive. I mean, it's a cool place, but like that's a lot like Moab.
I know. Well, yeah, it was just we'd ridden 5 miles of hell. It was our fourth trip to Moab. We were supposed to go somewhere else to ride. My buddy had it all planned out and go ride other trails. I can't remember what they're called right now, but they were closed, or the state had closed them down. And then we had already driven 110 miles, and we actually just called a couple dealerships around that were open. We're like, hey, and one of the guys is like, just go to Banks.
Yeah. Well, it's a cool place. You probably were trying to come ride the Uncompahgre Plateau. Does that ring any bells?
Yep, I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that gets closed. That's our backyard. That's 30 minutes from here, and it
Okay.
closes in the fall on Labor Day for hunting because
Oh,
there's a big trophy unit up there that guys wait like 12 years to get a tag in, and
got it.
so they shut all the motorized stuff down up there just to give the hunters a chance to be alone and shoot a giant elk. So.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, actually, there was a question up above. Do you work on Shercos at all? Because my friend Bruce Kennedy was mentioning Woody from Seat Time, who had problems with his 18 Sherco. Do you guys do any wiring stuff on those? Because after looking at his bike, it looks pretty chintzy. The wiring on that thing looks not that awesome.
So my bike before my 23XC that I just sold was a 250 factory edition.
Okay.
And so we do have dual sport kits for the Shercos. Their wiring is not very desirable. I mean,
Thank you.
it's bullet connectors on
Yeah.
on stock bikes. I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, it's
but-
ridiculous.
Yeah, but I've only worked really on that, like 20 plus bikes. I can't really speak what a 2018 had.
Yeah.
We've had a few guys call and ask me, do our wiring harnesses fit 16 Shercos and stuff like that? And they've taken pictures and sent it. I'm like, well, I'll send it to you. Try to mount it. If it doesn't work, I'll take it back. Let me know. Just because there's not that many older Shercos around me that I can really access to build parts off of. So.
Yeah. Well, in that one, at least I think it was 19 when they switched, but in 18, that was the problem with Woody's, is that it had a on-off switch for the ignition that was stupid. So whatever. But it also turned lights on, and it was a night. Well, you know what it was? It was just like Yamaha WR.
Oh yeah,
except,
a little push button.
Except it was not a water sealed push button. It was one of those cheesy plastic rockers that you can buy from Western Power Sports that
Yeah.
horrible. That's it, like, at least the Yamaha was a sealed button. But when you hit on the Yamaha, you push that on, it turns the tail light on, and so if you use the kill switch to kill the bike, it kills the battery. Whatever, it's a nightmare. So big difference.
The newer ones are not like that.
No, I know. I asked him, I'm like, this is the dumb. He's like, well, in 19, it's not like this. I'm like, well, you need a new bike, Brian. Like, that's enough of this. It's enough. Let's see. Will you do a review of the moose balls in the tires? Yes. Woods 250X. I have that. They are in tires or wheels. They're not mounted on my bike because I'm going to ride snow. I keep forgetting snow on that bike this Saturday morning, and then might get out on the other bike to test that stupid carburetor again. I think we might have it fixed, which would be cool. And then we're going to Phoenix. Will probably be where I really get to test the moose balls because I don't know. There's a lot of snow and it's cold and it's only 2 weeks away from that anyway. So we're going down to Phoenix and I'm going to take those and beat on them pretty good and see how they do.
When are you going to Arizona?
30th, 31st, and 1st. You want to come?
I wish. We're going the 23rd through the 30th of January.
Oh, okay,
So,
right on. Yeah, we do a New Year's trip. The last 3 years we've done it, and a buddy of mine, I wasn't gonna go because my kids wanted to stay home for New Year's and be with their friends, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then a buddy of mine's like, we're all going. I'm like, So I asked my wife if it'd be all right if I just boogied out. So my mechanic and I are gonna blast down there and ride for 3 days. So. Speaking of wiring, what are the 3 wires with no ends behind the number plate on the 23 XCs?
3 wires with no ends. Are you talking about like the taped up pieces that come off of the main harness? Those most likely I haven't untaped them, but usually those are like a ground pack and 2 different power lead packs. So it's where they tie a bunch of different ones to run to a bunch of the different switches together. That's what KTM's done in the past. It's the new harness is so nicely done on the bikes. It's such an upgrade in 23 with waterproof connectors from Tyco, and they've taped all their harnesses all the way up to the heat shrink, or excuse me, the sheathing. So I haven't taken it apart to see. So I don't know exactly what they are. If I had to guess, it's a ground pack. That way you're not running, 6 grounds up a loom that has. That's usually what they do. Like when we build a turn signal harness, we'll come out and get, 1 or 2 ground wires or something like that all the way, and then make a ground pack off of that to run to all the connectors back there. That way you're not having this huge loom that has to run all the way up the bike. So that would be my guess. I have not cut it open to see.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be that. Bruce, what did I change on the stupid carb? Great question. So first of all, I'm gonna make a video about it, but like the guy from Xting is driven to make that thing right. Like he was so sad about my review and how it ran for me, and he didn't think I was lying. He's like, I watched it. It sounded like it ran like crap, and I'm like, yeah, it was. So he went out and did, I don't know how much testing on how many carburetors, but he found that he was having some of them where the choke circuit was leaking. And like even though the plunger was closed and all that stuff, there's something machined wrong, or I don't know, whatever. So what I did, Bruce, was I soldered the tube that feeds the choke circuit closed to take that out of the situation. And then, yeah, it makes it a little bit hard to start when it's cold, but it still starts. It's, whatever. And then change the settings back to anyway, whatever. It's kind of a long story, but whatever. Around here in the rocks, up and down some big hills, it feels really good. So we're going to find out. Hopefully we'll see. I don't know. If it sucks, I'll let you all know that it sucks. Snake Oiler.
Not a fan of meter and rod cards.
Yeah, thank you. Me neither.
I said I'm not a...
Yeah. I'm not a, like, whatever.
Keen Air Striker.
Yeah.
Keen Air Striker, and you're done. I mean...
Yeah, I've been over this so many times. It's hard. I don't know why people have such a hard time with a Kian. And really the Mikuni wasn't bad once you got the jet block gasket fixed and a better needle in it. But anyway, the Kian, it just works. And for me, I can ride from Moab, which is about 4,000 feet, to 12,000 feet without changing a jet. It's fine. And maybe it's a little rich up top. Okay. I mean, it's 12,000 feet. What are you going to do? I mean, you're not drag racing the thing. Like, who cares? And as long as it doesn't foul a plug, I don't really care if it's a little on the rich side. So, I'm not a fan of meter and rod carbs. Never have been. I probably never will be. But this guy is really dying to make it right. And it's funny because everybody... Like I had some guy get a hold of me. He went off on YouTube online in the comments, like just whatever. Said I don't know what I'm talking about and all this stuff. And he said he's a AMA number 1 plate holder and all this stuff. And I looked him up and I looked. All I could really, first of all, I couldn't see any AMA number 1 plates held by this guy's name, whatever. But then all I could see on his profile was a road race bike, and I'm like, okay. So metering rod stuff does work well in road race situations because it's kind of a constant throttle opening. It's wide open. And that's why they used, the Dominator carburetor that they used in NASCAR forever was a metering rod carburetor because, again, you just mash it open and go. Like, okay, that's awesome. Well, that doesn't work with dirt bikes. Like, it doesn't, anyway. So, yeah, we don't have to go down that road. It's a dumb... let's see. This guy you might be able to answer this. 22 XCFW 500 giving a code 17. Do you know what that is, Dan?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
I got my manual out in the shop. I could probably figure it out, but
yeah. Shirley Krusty 1, your name, whatever. Surely you could Google that. But I don't know either, unfortunately. Okay, so here we go. Someone who's had great success with their Smart Carb 2. Good for Texas, easy tune, college, no just. So, some people have good luck. Other people don't. I don't want to argue about it. Like, if you like it, that's awesome. I don't, honestly, don't listen to people on the internet. Like,
Yeah, whatever gets you out and riding, and if you're
yeah,
happy with it, do it. Yeah.
yeah. Don't listen to guys on the internet giving you a hard time. I mean, me. That's what I'm talking about. Me. Just do what is awesome and works for you. But if you have a problem with it, don't be afraid to shit can it. Excuse me, as fast as possible to go back to something that just works.
Yeah.
And yes, the TBI he's got a TBI 250XE is freaking brilliant. I don't know. Have you? So
Have you ridden a 250?
Go ahead.
Have you ridden a 250 yet?
Nah, I don't have any around here. Everybody in Colorado wants a 300. So
I know I haven't. I really want to ride a 250. I do like that 250 kind of wide open, over rev better power, but because I came off my Sherco as a 250 and getting the 300, my TPI 300, my biggest gripe was it was like I had to shift way too soon because I was out of top end.
Yeah.
And the new 300 is so much, it just wants to over rev to the moon.
Yeah.
So once the snow's melted on the east side of the Cascades, and I can get over to Mattawa, which is our big sand hill, rock stuff over there, I cannot wait to get over there and just let that thing sing on long hill climbs. So
I don't know. I've had a lot of 250s, and my last race bike was a 125, and I swear this 300 revs like that 125. It is out.
They're insane on the top end. They're insane on the top end.
I mean, in the green map, it's like it seriously feels like a 125 only with torque, right? Like just I get scared and I shift it because I'm like, well, it's either gonna blow up or I don't know, so I just shift the thing. But I don't feel like you need to. It just keeps pulling.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I'm so happy with it. Let's see, Datsun. Where do you live, Datsun? He's got a little Datsun truck in his thing. He said, you can ride mine. I'd love to ride yours, but I don't think you live near me. If you do, come over here and I'll ride it. I'd be riding with the nail stand-up mod. Good job. Jay, haven't found a good builder who likes Lectron. The junk. So, short story about, I really don't like Lectron. The company is that I sold a ton of those carburetors for them for a while because people were really struggling with the Mikuni. This is before they kind of figured out the whole jet block thing. Then back in 17 when they came out and people were like, so they sold a ton. That bike was really good for Lectron. And so they sold a ton of those things. I sold a bunch to the shop. I was a dealer, whatever. Moved forward. I quit running. Actually, I still had one on my YZ because they'd given it to me. Anyway, but I kind of got away from them. We figured out the Mikunis. We got them dialed in. People were pretty happy with them. I was like, you don't need to spend money on a $500 carburetor. And I had an old customer come in and he needed a slide because the slides are stupid on Lectrons. I'm sorry, Lectron. But anyway, they're zinc and they wear out. So he needed a slide. So I called Lectron and said, hey, I need a slide, X slide for this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, you're not a dealer. I'm like, yeah, I am. I've sold like 50 of those carburetors for you. And they're like, well, you're not a dealer anymore. You didn't meet our minimum. I'm like, what's the minimum? I'm like, well, if you want to be a dealer now, you have to place a $3,500 order. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And so, this is after they had become available through Tucker Rocky. And I'm like, well, does Tucker carry those slides? No. I'm like, so how do I get a slide for my customer? Well, you can pay retail for it. I'm like, you guys suck. So I had my customer just call them up and order it. And that was it. After that, I'm like, yeah, anyway.
I have a story about Lectron too, but basically we had a carb for a customer bike, set it up. It was a 16 TE300 and I tried to talk him like, we can just dial in your key and it's gonna be better, right? Don't worry about it. And it's like, no, the internet says Lectron. I gotta do Lectron. I'm like, all right. So we threw one on, ran like garbage, talked to him, 3 different meter and rods, playing with it. Finally, they're like, send it back. They're like, all right, we dynoed it on the same exact bike, sent it back to me. They're like, don't touch it, put it on the bike and tell your customer to go ride it. Went and rode it. It leaned out, bike blew up, seized the top end. Customer brings the bike back. I call them like, hey man, I did what you said. Now I got to do this top end, and they're like, sorry, we can't help you. And I was like, all right, never again.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it again. So
Yeah.
people love them, and if they love them, that's great. I will always just buy a Keen Air Striker carb and throw it on my bike and be done. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Yamaha Woods 250X, can't get an XC anywhere. Yeah. Looking at an SX to build it. So that's not a bad situation if you don't mind the transmission. And the transmission is good. It's just first gear is really tall compared to the XC. But the ratios I think are good. They just start higher up. That's how I feel about it. So if you don't mind like gearing the whole thing down for the Woods and then not having that overdrive 6, then you're fine. Other than that, they're basically the same. But little birdie, who knows an awful lot, just told me that there are some serious amounts of XCs coming very soon. I hear that there's going to be a whole bunch of them. So just be patient, I would say, and wait, because it's wintertime. Wait, because I hear there's enough coming that there might be actually some deals on them financially too. So, I would hang out and wait.
there's a couple at my local shop that are below MSRP right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There's actually one here in Montrose. He's still got MSRP on it, but but it's sitting on the floor. You can go buy it right now. So, let's see. I'm still talking about electrons, right? Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna leave the Lectron thing behind. I don't want to, whatever. Anyway.
We can talk about oil next.
Yeah, we can talk about oil and tires. How about that? Do you want to talk about two-stroke oil or motor oil? Because those are two giant situations.
Did I run Rotella in my bike?
Oh God. Anyway. It's like I swore I would never do that again, and then somebody freaking got on the live show and brought it up, and the thing went, and I was like, damn it.
No, we're not doing that.
We are not doing that. That's awesome. So again, you told me already, but where are you in Washington? So, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you to buy a wiring harness?
So I am in Rainier, Washington, which is just a small little podunk town with 2 gas stations and a couple schools. Basically right outside of Olympia, Washington, which is the capital, about 15 minutes away from Olympia. Getting a hold of me under the contact info on truenorthmotos.com. That email and that phone number both go directly to me. I'm the one who deals with all the customers direct. So if you're calling and you're talking to somebody, it's going to be me. If you're sending an email, I'm the one replying to it. So
right on. Dude named Eric trying to push dents out on the pipe. What's the max PSI from the kit? My max is 80 PSI, just real quick. So I don't go much over that. I've never had one blow off at 80, so I stick with that. Let's see. Got an 08 KX450. How hard is it to replace the oil seal for the valves? This is head off problem. Well, you got to take the valves out, dude. So you got to have a valve spring compressor, and all that to get the valves off and then pull it out. So it's not hard if you have a valve spring compressor. If you don't have a valve spring compressor, it's almost impossible. But because you can't do I don't know. So I don't know. I have friends that used to work on old trucks. You could pressurize the motor and have the valves push out, and then just push it down with a socket and get it off. But I don't. And they used to do that with old Chevys. You could do valve seals without taking the head off, because you'd put air pressure to each cylinder, and it would push the piston down, close the valves, and then from the outside you could take the thing apart, pull the valve seal off, and put it back on. But I've never tried it on a dirt bike. I don't think it's probably a good idea. Datsun, what 40 to 1, 60 to 1? What are you using with the TBI? Me personally, I'm doing 40 to 1, And a quick story about that. I had a guy who's been following me. A lot of these TBIs are fouling plugs. They're running BR80Ss and they're fouling plugs. And it's weirdly enough, mine came with a 7. So I stuck with a 7, never fouled a plug. Also, I've been running 40 to 1. So this guy understands 2 strokes, and he understands that 40 to 1 is actually leaner than 60 to 1. Yep. And so he went from 60 to 1 to 40 to 1, and it cleaned his bike up. It quit loading up like it was doing before. And he's going to probably go to 32 to 1 and just see if it's even better. Because that spooge coming out of the back of your bike is not always oil from being too rich with oil. It can have that to do with it, but a lot of it has to do with just too rich of a mixture. And like I said, 40 to 1 is less gas per oil, so it's leaner burning. And the TBI is not smart enough to know the difference between 60 to 1 and 40 to 1 as far as like, there's no thing to tell it that there's different gas in there. It's just...
Yeah, I did 60 to 1 originally with Motor X. And now I am running 50 to 1 with the 7, and I have not fouled the plug since.
So it's a thing that guys don't understand. Everybody thinks
50 parts
more...
of gas, 1 part oil.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't. I get it. There's a lot of people that don't. I don't know. They just don't see it that way, right? They don't like it's richer. I'm like, no, it's not. It's leaner, and it can get hotter that way too. You can run. You know, if you run too much oil, you can get a hotter motor, which actually in these situations might not be a bad thing since some of them are loading up and fouling plugs. If you get the heat in the motor up a little bit, you don't want to go crazy, obviously, and get detonation going on, but you might get it clean. So I might try 32 to 1 too. I haven't run 32 to 1 in freaking anything in forever, but I might try it just to see what happens.
Why not?
Yeah. Real quick. Oh God, Sandy, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to read your question, but I'm not going to answer. What do you think about guys who swear about using ATF for motor oil in the crankcase? We're not talking about oil. But that's a bad idea. I don't know. Well, maybe it's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't know. Whatever.
It stinks when it comes out.
Yeah. There you go.
It smells terrible when it comes out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It'd probably be just fine. But found it, asked Dan and Morgan, what race series are you doing in 2023? I'll leave that to you first, Dan.
So I will be racing all of the Enduro series in my local area here. NMA is the one who puts on the series, Northwest Motorcycle Association. So it's all local in Washington. And then I'll probably do a few hair scrambles and then also the Desert 100, which, Morgan, if you've never been to the Desert 100, you got to come out and do that.
I know. I've got to do that one. Yeah.
It's super fun. And then I'll be doing the 24-hour race again here in Washington. So.
Nice. Yeah, it's going to be interesting this year because we lost our local hair scramble series that was always the go-to all summer, super fun, and the owners just got out of it, and I don't think no one has bought it yet. I doubt anyone's going to buy it. I mean, so maybe that'll change. It's a Weeby hair scramble series. It's a bummer. So I'm going to be racing Rocky Mountain Enduro Circuit stuff. So probably cherry pick. I'll probably take the summer off of doing any kind of series, mainly because we don't have a single one. Like the Rocky Mountain Enduro Circuit goes from Texas to Nebraska. I just can't travel that far. Like I can't do it. It's just too much. Because my kids are old enough to race and all that, but they got lots of things going on. And anyway, so but I'll try to hit as many RMEC races as possible and maybe some Corks races, which is another hair scramble series, but it's on the other side of our state, over on the east slope. So might get a lot of that. Hopefully, we'll see. People still talking about oil. I don't do it. Area 51 Enduro guy. Hey, from Ohio. How's it going, man? Lucas, oh, the springs are super stiff, hard to push down. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's a thing that, like I said, on cars you could do it. Bruce Kennedy asked, Dan, is there a lot of public marked trail in your area?
There is a ton of public marked trails in Washington. Traveling around, like I said, I've only been to Colorado, one little area, but Moab, Arizona, Oregon, Idaho. I haven't. I was supposed to go to Idaho last year. I'm brain farting there, but Washington and the Cascades is some of the best mountain trail riding. I haven't been to Colorado. I really want to get there for their mountain trail riding, but it's very different. Oregon's very similar. If you're going in, the northwest part of Oregon is very similar, but big roots. In the winter when it first opens, snow melts, very slippery roots, big rocks, and the rocks, it's not like Moab where you just have constant traction. It's like you better have momentum when you hit them because your tire is going to be spinning all the way up the thing. So the trails here are great. Other thing is you can ride pretty much year round. There's a lot of low level, sea level trails that still have elevation up to 1,500 feet, 2,500 feet, something like that.
Oh, dang, we lost you a little bit, Dan. We'll jump back in here. Northwest Moto, good to see you. Northwest Moto, do you know Dan from Trinity? We lost you there for a little bit, dude. But you're saying like up to 1,500 feet? That's okay. You said up to 1,500 feet, and then I'm guessing just all, it sounds awesome. I've heard that the riding there, I've got friends in Washington and Oregon that like keep screaming at me to get up there. It's just right now, it's a long way to go. It's just like you coming to Colorado. It's like it's a long way to come.
Yep. Yeah.
And you've got awesome riding.
If you ever do, I got 15 acres you can park here and I'll tour you around. So
yeah, I'll make it up there eventually.
Yeah, it's up to like 2,500 feet, depending on how the snow is, that you can ride in the wintertime. Sorry, my internet's hit and miss because I'm on satellite internet here, so
yeah,
I apologize if I cut out.
That's all right. No worries. Yeah, that's all right. You live in a small. I live in a small town. You live in a very small town. So, Northwest Moto. I don't know Dan, but he's not lying. I got to get up there because the West in general is like Bruce just as like, come on out to Michigan. One of these days I'll make it out, back east. But I don't know. It's hard for me to leave the West because I don't know. It's the West. It's open. It's public land. It's glorious. Freedom.
Yep.
There's not a lot of rules. It's a nice place to be. So one of these days I'll get back east. But my next goals are the Northwest. In fact, actually, probably this coming summer, I'm going to try to get to the Northwest because I spent I spent a fair amount of time up there on my honeymoon 23 years ago, climbing and stuff, because that's back when I wasn't really riding dirt bikes. And then I took my kids out there not long ago, just to show them. My wife and I brought them out and showed them the coast because they had never seen that, and it was super awesome. And I love the Northwest. I think it's an amazing place, and I just need to get out there. But let's see. Washington riding is epic. Yeah, the Travis Englehart. I don't know if you know these guys. Let's see. New Mexico Desert Racer, are side-by-sides tearing up anyone areas? Yes, around here. How's your side-by-side situation up there?
It's not too bad because the trails are very tight, so the side-by-sides can't fit on them. Now, if you get into mixed trail use systems where you have to use side-by-side trails with trails to connect, then it can be kind of sketchy. It's definitely getting, torn up in those type of zones, but most of it, because of how heavily treed everything is, you're kind of separated from the side-by-sides.
Yeah.
So.
That's how it, like, have you ever ridden South Dakota at all?
No.
It's super cool. It's really small. Like, the area to ride is very small, like, because most of South Dakota is just a flat pancake. But the Black Hills are really, really cool. And there's a ton of side-by-sides, like you go into like the town, like where you're going to have lunch or whatever. It's because it's neat too. There's like tiny little towns all over. You could ride in, have lunch, and ride out, whatever. It's awesome. and they're side by sides freaking everywhere, but they can't go on the single track because they just can't go. I mean, it's trees. I mean, they'd have to be out there cutting trees with chainsaws for years to go mess up single track. Our desert out here, that's what gets jacked up by side-by-sides. It's unfortunate because it's deserty, so there's no trees to keep them off of it. And if it's wide enough to not flip one over, the idiots will go. And it's so annoying. But fortunately, where we live, I mean, like where I live is desert, so we can ride pretty much year round. We got spiky tires here and there every now and then, but it's nice. But then around us is all the mountains, like that everybody's heard of: Taylor Park, the Uncompahgre Plateau, Sargent's, and all that stuff is an hour and a half for me, so it's super close. But and the side by sides can't get through those trees either. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I had a friend's wife get wiped out by a side by side. Fortunately, she's okay, but it was pretty ugly. On a road, they were just going down a road, and she and her husband are both very conservative riders, I'll say. Like, they're good, but they don't go fast. They just, they're just out having fun, right? And they were on the right-hand side of the road doing their thing, and she's out front because he's being in back just in case something happens. He's just doing the right thing. Come around a turn, and the side-by-side's just pinned. And boom! Broke her leg. I mean, it was horrific. And it was like, come on, guys, but it sucks.
It does suck.
Datsun, you're in Kremling. You said, I will come up and see you because that's close to Steamboat. And yeah, I want to do that. Let's see. Trails on side hills are the solution to side-by-sides. Yes, Jim. Hey, Jim, I'm coming to Phoenix. Are you going to be there? Let me know if you freaking better be, actually, now that I saw you. Jim Nash, you tiny little legs, we got to go ride. Tom Coral, 23XC 300 or TX 300Y. Honestly, those bikes are pretty much identical, aren't they?
I have feedback because we have both.
Okay, yeah.
So we have both in the shop. So very similar. I kind of like the Husky plastics. There's two big things I don't like about the Husky. The stupid shock cover thing they made on the Husky on the right side to cover where you can adjust your high speed, everything right there. I hate that thing. It's a pain in the butt. It sucks to remove. That, and then Husky, they were all supposed to come with Brembos, and Husky, somehow they all came with brake tech. So the Huskies have brake tech. Glad about a KTM. I like Brembos. And I really hate that plastic piece. Otherwise, they're both fantastic bikes. I mean, can't really go wrong.
Well, because this year, they both have the same subframe, so that's not a deal breaker either way. I guess the Husky sits a tiny bit lower. Like if you had a shorter inseam, it's a little bit lower.
I think it does. And then also that grab handle on the Husky, the KTM goes all the way through. Yeah. The Husky stops.
Huh.
And the subframe is actually the electrical layout of where they're going to put connectors, I think, for like the TE and the XCW are different between the KTM and the Husky. So there is some difference. I don't know if the subframe is exactly the same, but the layout is different.
Right. The other thing I just heard about the Husky, and I don't know, maybe you didn't notice this yet, but that the TX, not only did it come with brake tech, supposed to have Brembo, it also came with a roller chain, like a non-O-ring chain.
Ours didn't. Ours came with an O-ring chain.
Really? Because this, who was it? Someone got was like freaking out because their Husky came, he was watching one of my videos about the bike. I'm like, O-ring chain, the SX, because I was doing the SX versus XC. And then, SX doesn't have a, O-ring chain, so that's kind of a bummer. It's $100 you got to spend, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, my stupid TX didn't come with an O-ring chain. So he went to the dealer, and every Husky TX 300 they had came with a non-O-ring chain.
Yeah, we have a really good relationship with that. We buy all our OEM parts, one Husky dealer and one KTM dealer here in the Olympia area, and we had money on both. And the Husky was supposed to come with Brembo, and he called me. He's like, I just got, Bird told me that Brembo's running out, so Husky's gonna have to use brake tech. and it's actually like if you look at the model number when they changed them, it'll say Husqvarna TX300 BT. So like
Really?
the first ones that came out, because there's TXs, 23 TXs that came out with Brembos, but it's like there
Huh.
was a shortage or
Right.
something, because there was 5 Huskies that ended up at a Washington dealership in like, can't remember what it was. It was like August, way before anybody else got the bikes, and they sold like right away. All
Yeah.
those had Brembos. So
Ah,
there's a guy in Washington that has like 70 hours on his now, and he's
gotcha.
had it since like August. But yeah, I don't know if it was a supply thing or what. I mean, it'll probably be the same old thing of blame COVID and
Yeah.
we couldn't get them type of thing. But
Yeah.
who knows? Who
And
knows?
so someone was like asking brake tech, said the brake tech is so nice, the pull and the clutch. And I've got a friend with a gas. He's got quite a few hours on his gas that has brake tech, and he's had zero problems. So I don't know if you've seen any problems with brake techs.
No, and the clutch actually feels great. The rear brake, I can't notice much of a difference. It's the front brake that is a big difference to me, and maybe it's just because I'm so used to Brembo. It feels spongier. Doesn't feel like it has as much bite with one finger,
Right.
But I don't think they're terrible components. I was just excited to get a Brembo Husky TX,
Yeah.
So
So Bruce is like, he sent me a picture, and I did see this. He said, "You ever see the brake tech front caliper sitting way outside the rotor, so that there's a couple pictures online where the caliper is sitting so far outside the rotor that it's only like hitting half of the pad, and it's stock,
really,
bone stock, like stock bike, and it's almost like it was set up for a big rotor, but they used a small rotor."
yeah,
Like they set up for a 280 and they put a 250 on it or something like that.
yeah, the caliper carry off or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know. I did see that, Bruce, and that's weird. I don't understand. Oh, yeah, Jim Nash did mention, I will mention, there's a whole bunch of you guys watching and only 36 thumbs up. So back out of the chat, give us a thumbs up, and then come back in. And, actually, also, quick, Dan, where do we find you on the socials? You got a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel. I am not as YouTube savvy as you are, Morgan, but I try to post up a video every now and then. Most of the stuff I'm posting up now are like new products and install videos and reviews and stuff like that. But True North Moto is on YouTube. True North Moto at True North Moto is on Instagram. Same thing on Facebook. So
Right on. Cool. Yeah, and actually your install videos are really good. I've watched a few of them. I watched one before I installed the thing. I did not get as far as the wiring routing, so I had to fix that after you sent me that picture. But I mean, I don't know, the routing I had was fine, but your routing was better. Yeah, no, Dan's videos are really, really good. And I highly recommend his products, guys. I cannot tell you how nice that harness is. It just looks OEM. It just is sweet. It just fits. It looks OEM. Everything's sealed up. It's really, really nice. I mean, great job on
appreciate
that.
it.
I'm sure all your other
Appreciate
ones
it.
are the same way. Let's see. Will KTM's ever, hold on, just gotta stand up, come with a floating rear rotor? No, no bike's gonna come with a floating rear rotor that I know of. That would be weird. Hey, do you run, actually you ride in the mud more than we do. Do you run a solid rear rotor?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Never had an issue really. So
Yeah.
I mean, I have on like, I think I owned an Erzberg for a little while, and that came with one. But
I know.
other than that, I'm not buying a solid rear rotor to replace mine. So
Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna replace a good rotor. Like, I mean,
yeah,
if I bend the crap out of one or whatever, maybe I'll try it. But I don't know. Especially out here in the dry, we're so dry here compared to you guys. It doesn't make any sense. Jason Lab, however you pronounce that, had to buy a hot rods rebuild kit in an emergency for a friend's bike. How bad did I screw up? What are you rebuilding with the hot rods? Is it a crank or what? Let us know what you're talking about. I've not had too much problem with hot rods. I did, well, Small bikes, I've had issues with their stuff on small bikes, like hundreds and smaller. But never on a big bike. Well, I don't know. How do you do a lot of like crank up stuff at your shop, Dan?
No, we don't do it. I mean, we'll do top ends and stuff like that. If I'm gonna do bottom end rebuilds and stuff, I generally bring it to Dave Sheets at TBT, who's our local guy who we use for suspension and everything. He does motor builds. Just with production of wiring harnesses and racks and still doing bike work, taking on full engine builds and full big projects. I just don't have the time at the moment. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Datsun, your 22 250 FX doesn't have a floating rear rotor. It might have a floating front rotor because it's Yamaha. They've always run those floating front rotors. But I mean, I got piles of Yamahas. Have you ever seen a Yamaha with a floating rear rotor? I've never seen one.
Nope.
Yeah,
I gotta say hi to Travis Englehart from P&W Dirt Talk. What's up, Travis?
Yeah, heck yeah, dude. Right on.
Check it out.
Top and bottom end rebuild, Jason. You'll be fine with that as long as it's a big bike. I had a KX85 we did a full motor on that the crank failed from Hot Rods, and then actually my kid's KX100 didn't have a crank fail, but I had a main bearing fail at like an hour, and I got lucky. My kid's got a real sensitive ear, and he heard it whining, and it was like, "Dad, it's making weird noises." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "No, it's not." And then I'm like, "Oh yeah, it is." So I shut it off and split the cases again because we bought the bike blown up. And anyway, split the cases again, got an OEM set of bearings, and it was fine. So, okay, your 790 ADV has a floating rear rotor, right on. Okay, but it's not dirt bikes. And Travis, yes, you are famous now. Sweet. Well, it's been an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
guys,
thanks for having me.
Make sure you go check out True North Motos. If you have a newer KTM and you need a wiring harness, please do that. Check out his racks. I'm sure they're awesome. I haven't actually checked those out.
And wait, I got the new Enduro shirt.
Oh yeah.
If you've raced Enduros, you know the danger sign.
That is so awesome.
So
I need one of those.
Be on the site soon.
I definitely need one of those.
I'm going to send you one tomorrow.
Sick. Yes, I'm so excited. Oh, man. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. All you guys watching, thank you so much. And, yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Next week, I'm trying to get Chris Vestal from Moto Minded on. So, because Chris does cool electronic stuff, too. So, Punk Rock Club, we love you guys the most. You're better than everyone else. And, yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Dan, don't go away. I'm going to hit the finish button, but don't go away quite yet. So, guys, take care. We'll talk to you in the next one. Sweet.